Hey there, thank you. Welcome to the Film Fan Club show. I'm Sam Carrico. I think I know why my fictitious audience is happy this week. Yeah, the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer is supposedly coming out tomorrow, and I hear it will have some big surprises. The poster for No Way Home was already released about a week ago. Did you guys see this? You can see Doc Ock's tentacles, there's Green Goblin in the background, but if you look really closely, you can find a tiny bit of purpose in this otherwise meaningless existence called life. Spider-Man comes out in December. Disney Plus Day was on November 12th, and Marvel used the opportunity to announce a whole slew of new shows. In addition to a new Hawkeye trailer, we got teasers for Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Ms. Marvel. Moon Knight is something that I've been looking forward to for some time, but I'm also excited to see She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel, of course depending on whether or not Brie Larson says I'm allowed to.
It wasn't made for him.
Okay, Brie. More news to come out of Disney Plus Day. Lucasfilm released a first look at the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series, confirming that Obi-Wan will face off against Darth Vader once again. We previously reported that Hayden Christensen would be returning to the role of Anakin Skywalker. I guess when Vader said in A New Hope that when I left you I was but a learner, now I am the master, he really meant except for that one time 10 years ago. But there was some sad news for Star Wars fans as well this week. The upcoming Rogue Squadron movie from the director of Wonder Woman 1984 has been delayed indefinitely. The project was taken off of Lucasfilm's production schedule, supposedly due to scheduling conflicts with director Patty Jenkins. The collaboration between Jenkins and Star Wars was first announced in December 2020, right before Wonder Woman 84 came out and was terrible. Sources are insisting that this will still be made after Jenkins finds some time, just like Rian Johnson's trilogy is still going to be made. Eventually, right? Okay, we've got a great show for you lined up. Later on, we're going to be talking about the new Taylor Swift short film, All Too Well. My thoughts on it may surprise you. But first, Shaun McGhee is a local filmmaker here in Tulsa. I talked to him about his new film, Loyalty, his influences, and what's next for him. Let's get right to it. Okay, join me now. He is a Tulsa filmmaker. Shaun McGhee is with me. Hey, Shaun.
Hey, what's going on, Sammy?
It's
How
good
you
to
doing,
see
my
you.
man?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to have you on because it's been a while. We've been trying to kind of, nail down the scheduling. So I'm glad we could finally make it work. You've been really busy this year. I introduced you, of course, Tulsa filmmaker, and it seems like you're always, posting on social media about, the next project that you're working on or one that you just finished up. But I wanted to talk to you about Loyalty. You've been hyping that up for a while. And for those who aren't aware, my audience who may not be as aware, basically in a nutshell, kind of what is that project about? How did it come to you? And what was the process of, getting it made like?
Okay, awesome. First, thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate that. Loyalty's been in the works for about 4 years. It was just something that when I first got started, I just was writing. I come from a music background, hip hop, so I was always good with lyrics. So I figured I'd take a stab at writing the script. So I just was writing, messing around, and I ended up writing Loyalty, and it was just kind of sitting around until I got into the actual making it happen mode. You know what I mean? So when I got into that mode, I just said, you know what? I love these kind of films. I made it. I wrote it. Now it's time to put the action into it and make it. And so basically, Loyalty is about two brothers who are in the drug game. One is trying to make his escape, get out, and build a better life for his family, while the other one is just obsessed with what he called the money and the mayhem. He's obsessed with it. So it's basically these two brothers that one of them has a dependency on his older brother so much. And I try to show that in the beginning of the film, throughout the film, that he's always dependent on his brother for whatever it may have been. And so getting out the game was just one of the things that it represented more, that his brother was leaving him. And so it pushed him to the brink to where he was just going crazy. So the people have to watch it to see, but it's basically about consequences. It's heavy on consequences. I really try to push the consequence theme a lot in this film, but it's really two brothers, two different worlds trying to separate and do better. One of them is, and then the other one just he can't take it, so he has to try to draw him back into the game whichever way he can. So
I like that. It's like taking something that could be a pretty, big concept, gangs and crime, kind of action film like that, and then, you know, kind of taking it down to a more personal level and making it about
Exactly.
the relationship between those two brothers. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate that approach. And obviously, you know, you're an independent filmmaker. So what have been some of the challenges that you've come across in making this film?
Oh man. For one, I had to kind of get into my mind that what I was working with. I had to really come into grips with what I was working with and what I had to make this film work. So a lot of the scenes, when I was sitting down, breaking it down and going over the shot list, I knew what I had. I knew, okay, this can't be over the top because I don't have access to the over the top stuff just yet. So I really tried to get in tune with what I had as far as locations, actors, things that I would need in each scene if they was accessible to me. So I really tried to keep it, since it was just me. I really tried to keep everything in an idea that I can reach out and go get it, or I can make a phone call and get it. So once I did that, it was sort of like, okay, we got one location, we got an Airbnb, we had a $700 budget, and I was like, okay, this is manageable. We can make this happen. So that was a whole different process, but it was so much fun because the crew came together. My wife was a big help for us, like providing food for everyone. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, far as like getting locations, getting props, all that stuff kind of came kind of easy, but I kept it very basic, very simple to try to tell this story.
You have to kind of do that. Yeah. Whenever you're a writer director and you're kind of doing the whole thing, you kind of have to prepare that whenever you're writing the
Yeah,
script. What am I going to be able to
exactly.
do? Like you were saying, what were some of the, you know, you talk about how you eventually had a premiere, and what is first of all, how was the premiere? And then what was the kind of response that you've seen so far to this?
Oh man, it was actually pretty amazing. And the aspect of it, it was two quote unquote premiere days. The first one, we didn't have anyone come out. It was just the cast. It was just some members of the cast. And we sat there, and this was my first time to actually watch the film play all the way through. And so sitting there with everyone watching it, they hadn't seen it. I was the only one with it since I was editing. um, to see everyone watch it, to get a feel for it, for me to see the pace of the film and to get their input afterwards really helped, far as seeing and feeling and making the adjustments that I needed to make for the next cut. So I end up cutting the film and adding stuff in the film after the first quote unquote premiere. And I was more ready to show it the second time because I knew, okay, this pace, I didn't like the way the transition went in and here. Maybe add this, fix the audio. So the first one really helped me prepare for the second one. Now the actual premiere, it was awesome for it to be the first time. Me as a first time filmmaker, to see people there watching my film, because we in the world of Facebook and social media, you could just make your video, put it out, and I'm
Right.
not really watching people that watch it. So to sit there in the back of the room and to watch people react to certain parts, or to yell out emotions, or no, don't do this, it was a great experience. It just made me even more, I like to say, hooked. It made me more thirsty to write more stories and to shoot more films. So it was awesome. It was a great experience.
Well, I was gonna say it must have been really nerve-wracking. You mentioned that first time whenever you had the screening, you know, let's say the test screening with the cast, whenever you're sitting down there watching it for the first time, you know, with everybody, that must have been kind of a nerve-wracking feeling.
Very, because I was unsure. Now, literally, I was still editing up until that day. And so I literally just exported each scene out and put it all together. So it was literally a scene, a fade, back to another. It had no continuity to it at all. It was just different scenes running together. And so to watch it like that, I said, this isn't the way that it should be. So once I got a second date to do it again, I knew, okay, I need to add this there. I need to add a time lapse here so that the transition from night to day, I feel better. I need to add a different scene here because he gets to this point too fast. So I was able to really like, and I had my notebook taking notes. And I was able to take notes, take inputs from the cast, and it helped make a better cut. So it was much needed. It was much needed.
It must be hard to kind of find a moment to like, even now, be like, all right, I'm done. I can set this down, because you must be always
Wow.
wanting to tweak.
Wow, man, Sam, that's so crazy that you say that because I still haven't gotten to that mode to where I'm done because we had the premiere, but I still hadn't released the film out yet. So I still feel like I'm caught in between, feeling like I got to get this project out. I'm not fully done to move on to something else. And so this week I'm going to do a Zoom release, and then I'm going to release it out on Facebook for people to go ahead and watch it, and then we'll be done like what we talked about. So
Yeah, when can people expect to see it on social media?
this Friday the 19th.
Excellent.
November 19th. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, and then of course after that gets released, I'll put the link to that in the description of this video because
Okay.
I've been seeing, like I said, I've been seeing you hype this up for a while, and it looks like it's going to be something really special. So I'm looking forward to it myself, just as a fan.
Appreciate you.
But what can people expect? You mentioned on social media that you've already got ideas in the works for your next project. So looking ahead, what can people look forward to?
Oh man, I'll tell you. I'll try to keep this one brief, but I have to share this moment with you and your fans. So the background that we come from. We both photojournalists. That's how we met.
Right.
So a lot of the inspiration that I was going into this next documentary was for firefighters. I wanted to make a documentary about firefighters. And so I was piecing that together and trying to put that together. But then it hit me kind of yesterday that the story that I want to tell now is about our law enforcement, police officers. So that's my next project. I want to try to shoot a documentary on our law enforcement. Since I've dealt with that particular thing, and not in a bad way, I don't want the people to say I've dealt with police brutality or anything like that. Just my interactions with police officers and how real it was. I wanted to try to do a documentary because you feel that realness in it. There's no acting, there's no reenactment. This is the real deal as far as what's going on in our world every day. So I wanted to kind of bring how I feel dealing with it in this real sort of like space and capture that to tell the people these stories. And yeah, I haven't done a documentary before, but I haven't made a film before neither. So it's like it's definitely a challenge, but I'm up for it.
Yeah,
I'm definitely up for it.
Going back to just kind of your career in general, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but who do you look to as influences, whether it be filmmakers for fictional films, directors or documentarians? Who do you kind of look to as inspiration?
I'm a huge fan of the 30 for 30 series as far as documentaries.
Okay.
I love Showtime documentaries. They make really awesome documentaries. As far as directors, I'm kind of all over the place. Like I love Quentin Tarantino. I love Spike Lee. I love David Fincher. So I kind of like take from all these guys and watch their films and learn and study. Francis Coppola. Of course, the greats, and I'm kind of the more I get into it, the more I find myself going back further and further. French New Wave, I find myself going back to get some of this great stuff. But I think now and it's almost like, I don't know if you go through this too. It's almost like spurts. Like I'll go through a Quentin Tarantino fix to where I got to watch all Quentin's movies. Or I'm watching. I'm watching. I forget this guy, PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh yeah, because he's got Soggy Bottom coming out later this year.
Yes. So I'm going. I'm going through his film. I just watched Punch Drunk Love. So, and There Will Be Blood is one of my favorites. So I'm kind of going through a PTA phase now. So I'm watching all his films. But
thank you so much for coming on the show, Shaun. Shaun, Loyalty is going to be, it sounds like, wide release coming very shortly. Of course, we'll put the link to that in the description of this video, and keep an eye out, everybody, because it sounds like you got a lot more stuff in the works. Shaun McGhee, thank you so much for joining the show.
Appreciate you, Sam. Thanks so much for having me, buddy. Take care.
And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Red, Taylor's version, was released on Friday, and with it came All Too Well, the short film. Now, I'm no Swiftie, but I have dated my fair share of Swifties, so I guess you could say that I know Taylor all too well. The short film was written and directed by Taylor Swift and shot on 35mm film by cinematographer Rena Yang, so of course, the first thing that jumped out to me was just how beautiful this short film looks. I think the aspect ratio and the look of the 35mm film really contributed to that cozy feeling that Taylor wants to bring to Red in general. There were chapter titles throughout this, which I thought was a nice tip of the hat to Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's almost as if Taylor was subtly saying, restore the Snyderverse, which I respect. Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien play our female and male leads here. Most of their emotions are conveyed non-verbally underneath the music, which is a pretty big feat by itself, but there is a moment when the music breaks for a tense argument scene where Sink's acting chops are really brought to the forefront. I couldn't help but notice there are a couple longer continuous takes in this argument scene that really put you there in the action and are pulled off really well by cinematographer Yang and the actors. The story is pretty straightforward, and while Taylor's dialogue leaves a little to be desired, it's still heartbreaking. There's a time jump at the end that had me gasping, and a moment with the scarf that had me crying. I won't give away the ending exactly, but it very much feels like the inverse of the ending to La La Land. If I could summarize my thoughts on All Too Well in one sentence though, it would be this: fuck Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, that's our show. I've been Sam Carrico. I'd like to send a special thank you to Shaun McGhee and another one to you, our viewers. Thank you so much for checking this video out, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.